Hello guys, today's tutorial is about events, so I'm going to show you how all events work. So let's get started. By the way, each one of these three buttons has some events, so let me show you. This button has the events related to the pointers. This one has events related to selecting, and this image has the events related to dragging. And if you don't know how to add an event, all you have to do is to add a component. Going to event trigger, event trigger, and add a new event type, and you can add whatever the event you want. And then to execute something that event, click on the plus sign, find the game object that has a function that you want. For instance, if I put this debug on this image has this function. So if I drag the image into here, I can use that script and execute any function that there is on there. So if I go on to debug this, I have here, for instance, this pressed function. So let me show you what that is. So that pressed function just basically sees what string is in here and debugs it. And this string is given by this field over here. So if I press something like this, whenever the pointer is down on this image, this will show. So let me show you. If I click, you'll see that shows over there. Anyways, now you know how events work. And now I'm going to show you how the events related to pointers, to the mouse pointer work. And by the way, using the mouse or using your finger in the mobile, it's basically the same thing. The only thing that you have to be aware is that in mobile you have multiple fingers, but only if one finger works. So if you put two fingers on the screen, usually only one thing happens, or sometimes nothing happens. So take care of that, but it's basically the same thing rather than that. So this button has some events. So for instance, whenever the pointer enters and exits, and that's really simple and understandable. If I go in on the button, you see that it has entered here in the console, and if I go out, you see that this has exited, and this is useful. Now the pointer down, the pointer up, and the click are the other three ones, and they're all related and very simple. So the pointer down is when you click, as you can see. When you press the button, the pointer up is when you stop pressing the button, and the click is when you press and stop pressing the button while it's in the button. Because for instance, if I'm in the button, I click and I go here and I stop clicking, then basically it didn't click. As you can see, that event didn't happen, and it happened this blank event, which is something I forgot to do, which is a drop event. Anyways, those are all of the pointer events, and now to the drop events. That event happens when something is dropped into an UI element. So we have this panel over here, which has this script which debugs dropped. So if I click on something else and drag it into there, you can see that it is dropped, and that's basically it. Now on to the select events. By the way, to these events be able to be executed, that element has to be selectable. So for instance, something like a button, a slider, a scroll bar, something like that, they are all interactable, so you can use them. But something like an image, you can't use that select event because it isn't selected. But if you want to, you can, just by going into add component, UI, and there's this selectable component over here, which makes that image selectable. And now you can use those selectable events. Anyways, onto that button. That button has some events happen when some actions, and a bit selected happens every frame that button is on focus. The select happens when we select it, the deselect when we deselect it, and the move submit and cancel, I'll show you a bit in a moment. Anyways, if I click the button, as you can see, it's updating every frame the update selected, because at this moment I can do anything. If I click here, it has to do something else, so that has to execute every frame. And I'm going to take it out from here right now. So now if I click the button, you'll see that this select event is happening, and if I click somewhere else to unfocus the button, it gets deselected. That's basically it. Select, deselect. Now these three events are more for keyboard. They're not even used on mobile, and they only work on the keyboard. So if I, for instance, if I have this button on focus, it's focused because as you can see here, it's selected. If I press the space, it's like submitting, so it's like, so it happens a submit event, and the enter also works, as you can see. Now the cancel happens when you press escape. So if I press the escape key, it's happening this event. And finally, the move event happens when I move focus, when I change the focus from this button to anything else. For instance, this button is also selectable, so it can also get focused. So I'm with this button selected, and if I press the arrow keys, for instance the up arrow key, it can go up, and now as you can see, the move event has happened, meaning the focus has moved into this button. So now if I press space, as you can see, it's submitting that button. If I go down again, it goes to this button, and that's basically how it works. And I press the up key to move to buttons the left or the right, move the other keys, and that's it. Now on to the drag events, and those events are in this image. So this image has some events. Its first one is drag, begin drag, and end drag, and these are related to dragging. And also there's this potential drag, which basically happens when you put the pointer down. So if I click here, you'll see that the event happened. And now to do a begin drag, all you have to do is click and move the mouse a bit. As you can see, it started the begin drag, and it's also the drag events have also happened, and every time I move the mouse, a drag event happens until, and if I don't move the mouse, they don't happen, and if I stop pressing, you'll see that the drag event happens. And that's it. Now the last event is the scroll event, which happens whenever you scroll. So I'm in this image, and if I move the mouse wheel, you'll see that it is scrolling. And that's basically it. By the way, one weird thing that happens with the mouse is, for instance, I have this button here, and as you can see, every time I click it, some stuff happens. And every time I click it with the right button, also some stuff happens. And with the mouse wheel button, it also happens stuff. So as you can see, the pointer up, pointer down, and click can happen with any button. But for instance, the select and deselect only happen with the left click button. And that's basically it. Right now I'm going to show you a function that I made, and I'm going to execute it every time the image is dragged, meaning every time we are moving the mouse and clicking while clicking in this image. So I'm going to click on the plus sign and add a function to it. I already have this debug script in here in this image, so all I have to do is drag this image and find that script in here and go on to the move this function. And let me show you what that function does. That function basically finds the transform of this object and moves it to wherever the mouse position is. So this is a simple way to move stuff. So if I click it and move it, you'll see that it is moving, which is pretty cool. And now I'm going to show you how to make events happen through code, because this is the way through the inspector, but if you are all hardcore and want to do it through code, you can also do it. And there are, just like the start function or the update function, Unity also has these other functions related to events. So so as you can see, all of those events are here. All these events are here, and I'm going to show you how to code it. I'm going to show you how to do the on pointer down, and Unity also actually has great examples about it here. I'm going to give you these two links. On pointer down, and this basically tells you what you have to do. So what you have to do first is you have to add the event systems in here, and you have to add this thing over here related to this event. So if you had, for instance, if instead of using the on pointer down, you wanted to use the on pointer enter, it would have to be here I pointer enter handler, or and for, as you can see, every function has this corresponding thing, and you have to put it there. And if you want to put several, all you have to do is to separate them with commas, and that's basically it. And then to execute, all you have to do is to use one of these default functions. So public void on pointer down, and as you can see, this function will happen every time the pointer is down. And let me now show you an example with the onDrag event. So we're going to use this iDrag handler over here. So I'm going to put a comma here like that. And as you can see now, it's in red because it's not working. We need to put here the namespace. So we need to put here using Unity engine dot event system. And now it's not in red, but as you can see, it also gives us an error which is telling us that it does not implement interface member, blah blah blah. And that's because we need the default function. So we put here the iDrag handler, meaning now it has to execute the onDrag function. So if I put here public void onDrag, and you have to pass here the pointer, the data of the pointer. So let's see here, you have to pass this pointer event data. So just paste that in here like so. And if I build, as you can see, that error has gone, and we have successfully. And now every time we drag, this function will happen. And this event data is basically the same. You can use this the same way that we use this here to move this object. So we can just do transform.position, which is the position of this, equals the event data dot position, and this is the mouse position. So if I save, let's see here. Remember that the script is in the debug, is in the image. So the image is this script, and I'm going to delete this stuff from over here so that you don't see nothing over there. And now, because this is in here, and every time we drag the image, this function will happen, and this function will move the position of that very same image. So if I press play and click on the image and drag it, you can see that it drags just like when we were using these over here. That was through the inspector. So that's basically it for today, guys. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next tutorial.